These are all names. These 6 names.
That's an alphabet soup.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the people in, I'll just say, our industry, even though I'm a lawyer, I am not. In our industry, that they have acronyms. In the investment business, we do too. And these scare people. People hear names like NINGs and DAPs and ILITs and intentionally defective.
So my industry's doing a good job at scaring you? Okay, I'm in.
Well, it's interesting to me that, but the client doesn't need to understand the details behind, or even frankly want to understand the details behind this, but if they do need to understand it from an education standpoint, what generally these things do and how they generally function. Would you agree that that helps them to yes?
I agree, and it's the difference between translating to a client or selling a client a product or a strategy versus a benefit and a process.
Yeah.
I think clients do better when you're talking about the benefit and you explain the process to get there than giving a technical explanation of a product or a strategy. And I think it's the same thing in financial investing.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
When I talk to advisors, I say, you're a financial advisor. You know how to do this. You've been doing this with financial advice your whole life.
Right.
The legal stuff should be approached just like you have a client think through what financially to do. It's help think through legally what to do, even though we're making it difficult.
Right, right. I find that in the investment world all the time. So the things that I find, and this is my personal experience, you might have a different one, that drive the ship, or the rudder that guides the direction of the powerboat or the sailboat, are primarily income tax and estate tax. And I want to spend a moment on the vocabulary and the differences as they relate to those 6 boxes on the top between income tax and estate tax.
And if I could, I think there's a bit of asset protection.
Yes, that's a feature in there. I agree that some of those have that, and others not. Some of them have a really thick wall, and some of them the wall is just a small picket fence. So first I'm going to tackle the concept of income tax. And so grantor versus non-grantor. In one sentence, I know this is hard.
An Italian lawyer, one sentence.
In one sentence, 2 if you feel you must. Explain the difference.
So the prelude sentence is, grantor, people interpret it as the person who sets something up or does it. In other words, I'm the grantor of a trust or a trust maker. This is different. These phrases are driven by the tax code, grantor or non-grantor trusts. A grantor one says, I want to be income taxed on it.
Okay. So I'll focus on that for a minute. Grantor, you're voluntarily saying, I'm going to be taxed on this.
Yep. The attorney drafted it in a way where you tax me on it.
And non-grantor?
Tax it or somebody else on it.
Okay. All right. Fair. That's a good description. And we have a couple of graphics here. The grantor, in this case, meaning the one who gave it, but they maintain control of it, in control of it, and they therefore pay the tax on it.
So you can put triggers, either let me be in control, let me exchange assets, or other triggers that tell the IRS in the state of California, even though I've given it to my daughter, tax it on my income tax return.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Like you would have a pass-through entity. Or you could have a non-pass-through one, a non-grantor, where you say, make it pay its own tax, or make the beneficiaries pay the tax on it.
Okay. So you've given up control of it, and I no longer want to pay the tax on it. Whoever the beneficiary or the trust itself can pay the tax on it.
The income tax. And why would somebody do that? It's a great way for me to continue to gift, let's say, to my daughter. Because if I put $100,000 in there, and it earned $10,000, and there was $5,000 of tax due, it would go up to 110, drop down to 105, right? If I paid the tax on it, it kept all 110. So it's a way to continue to gift to my daughter without really gifting to her. Now, mind you, she should say thank you.
Over and over and over. So that's a good way to describe that. And so for those watching this video, think in terms of grantor versus non-grantor. Grantor means the giver is going to continue to pay the tax. the non-grantor, and we'll show you which ones are grantor versus which ones are non-grantor in a moment. But the non-grantor, somebody else pays the tax.
Either it, that entity, or those beneficiaries.
Okay, fair enough.